I'm very skinny. I weigh about 62 pounds. Like when kids in my class weigh about 97.
We all love the festive season, and classic holiday movies like Home Alone have proven over the years to be just the right dose of laughter and relaxation we need. Captivating families worldwide, we can never truly get tired of viewing the holiday classic. Join us today as we uncover 20 weird facts about Home Alone that you probably didn't know. Number 20. Kevin's role was specifically written for Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin, who played the role of Kevin in the holiday classic Home Alone, was born Macaulay Carson Culkin on August 26, 1980. The star is an American actor and musician who is considered one of the most successful child actors of the 1990s. The director of Home Alone, director Chris Columbus, said that Kevin's role was specifically written for Macaulay Culkin, although that did not stop him from auditioning more than 100 other rascally pre-teens for the role. But Macaulay Culkin, as expected, nailed the role. The truth was that John Hughes had directed Little Culkin the previous year in Uncle Buck with John Candy, and Hughes was pretty certain that Macaulay Culkin was the right rascal for Kevin's role. "I owed it to myself as director to see other child actors," John said. "Okay, take your time, do what you need to do," Chris Columbus explained. More than 200 auditions later, Chris Columbus finally saw what James Hughes saw in Culkin, and he immediately knew this was the kid. "I knew subconsciously that John knew that was going to happen, but it was really sweet of him to give me that sort of freedom." Macaulay Culkin proved to be just what they had expected. The little star reportedly came up with his threat to Marv and Harry: "Do you guys give up, or are you thirsty for more?" He also improvised large parts of the scene where Kevin pretends to be throwing a huge bash to throw off the burglars. "You know when the wet bandits show up and I pretend there's a party there?" Culkin recounted to E! News in December 2024. "There's a Michael Jordan thing on the train set and there's music playing and I'm doing the whole thing with the strings moving the mannequins. Originally I was supposed to play the piano and things like that. It was way overcomplicated and they pretty much just said, 'Hey, we're going to tie some strings to you, be a goof.' I'm like, 'You're in my wheelhouse now.'" Macaulay Culkin has received a Golden Globe Award nomination and other accolades, and in 2005, he was ranked second on VH1's list of the 100 Greatest Kid Stars. In 2023, Macaulay Culkin received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The little star earned $110,000 for the original Home Alone movie, and when it came to the sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, he successfully negotiated his salary up to $4.5 million. They reportedly requested a 5% cut of the box office earnings for the sequel. The film made $359 million globally, which brought Culkin an additional $17.95 million. Macaulay Culkin doesn't disclose many aspects of his personal life. However, he has discussed his life as a child actor, the conflicts in his family life, including his estrangement from his father, and his decision to retire from acting at the age of 14. Currently, the Home Alone star resides in the Toluca Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles on an estate that was formerly owned by Kiefer Sutherland. Number 19. The uniqueness of Home Alone's success made the title a verb. In his book Who Killed Hollywood and Other Essays, the late Oscar-winning screenwriter William Goldman admitted that the unexpected success of Home Alone contributed a new phrase to the Hollywood lexicon, to be home alone, meaning that other films suffered at the box office because of Home Alone's long and successful run. "More than one executive said to me, 'My picture did 40, but it would have done 50 if it hadn't been Home Alone,'" Goldman wrote. According to another anonymous writer, Home Alone unfortunately represents the reality for many people worldwide. It is estimated that this Christmas, 8% of people will spend Christmas alone in the UK. This reality is especially true for those who are above 65. Moreover, there are probably many more people across the world who feel isolated, depressed, and as if they are walking alone through life. The movie itself alludes to this reality in the church scene with Marley. You can see that the church has the elderly isolated and alone in each pew. The movie takes this dismal reality and subverts it, placing a young person, Kevin, into this uncomfortable reality, the writer adds further. Number 18. The thieves, Harry and Marv, may not have recovered from the brutality of Kevin's attacks in the movie. When little Kevin began to deal with the thieves, we all felt the tension rising in the air, right? From BB gunshots on the forehead and groin, a steaming hot iron and can of paint to the face, to a flaming blowtorch to the scalp, The wet bandits did endure an awful lot of violence at the hands of a single 8-year-old. It was so severe that neither one of them was expected to be walking, let alone conscious, by the end of the night. In 2012, Dr. Ryan St. Clair diagnosed the likely outcome of their injuries for the week. Let's estimate the distance from the first floor to the basement at 15 feet, and assume the steam iron weighs 4 pounds. Note that the iron strikes Marv squarely in the mid-face. This is a serious impact, with enough force to fracture the bones surrounding the eyes. This is also known as a blowout fracture, and can lead to serious disfigurement and debilitating double vision if not repaired properly, Dr. St. Clair said. Literally 3 or 4 times while shooting Home Alone and Home Alone 2, I thought those guys were dead, Columbus admitted to Chicago. There was no CGI. It was kind of terrifying to watch. Only after they got up and came to the monitor to watch playback did we actually laugh. Stern also agreed, the stuntmen were the unsung heroes of the show. Whenever people tell me moments they like, I say, oh, that was Leon Delaney. Number 17, the giant tarantula that was on Marv's face was real. I'm sure we all remember the scene where Kevin pulled one of his naughty tricks by placing a large tarantula on Marv's face. Yes, that was real. Daniel Stern, who played Marv, initially felt reluctant about performing the stunt, asking the crew to remove the spider's stinger, but was told no, it would die. I said, yeah, but if you don't take it out, I'll die, he told The Hollywood Reporter. Luckily for the actor, tarantulas don't have ears, so he eventually agreed to perform the scream for take after take. They told me the tarantula was real nice and showed it walking across the trainer's arm. Everyone seemed cool with it, so I just had them put the friggin' tarantula on my face. Daniel Stern agreed to let it happen, but he only allowed it for 1 take. To avoid frightening the spider, Daniel Stern had to mime the scream and have the sound dubbed in later. Not only was it really fun and funny to do, but it was a personal challenge to overcome my fear of having something that icky and deadly crawling on my face, he wrote. It was even freakier because I had to do that scream, which meant my mouth was wide open too, and I was afraid the little bastard might take a detour down my throat. No wonder he said his bellow came from a place in my soul that I've never before touched and never hope to again. Number 16. Home Alone was inspired by a real family trip. The man who wrote Home Alone, the venerable John Hughes, was on his way to Europe for the first time with his family when a thought suddenly popped up in his head. What if one of the kids were left behind? As his son James Hughes recounts, he jotted down the idea and wrote the first draft of the movie's script in just 9 days after returning home. Capped by an 8-hour, 44-page dash to the finale, he shared. John Hughes' masterpiece was born from his parental anxiety. In an oral history compiled for Chicago Magazine in 2015, his son, James Hughes, revealed the legendary filmmaker jotted the idea down in a notebook on August 8, 1989, just ahead of the family's first trip to Europe. Additionally, John Hughes reportedly conceived Home Alone while on vacation, with Warner Brothers originally intended to finance and distribute the film. However, Warner Brothers shut down the production after it exceeded its assigned budget. Just when the movie's production was looking bleak, 20th Century Fox came to the rescue and assumed responsibilities following meetings with John Hughes. Number 15. Macaulay Culkin still calls Catherine O'Hara Mommy. Catherine Ann O'Hara, who played Kevin's mom, was born on March 4, 1954. She is a Canadian and American actress, comedian, and screenwriter who began her career in sketch and improvisational comedy on film and television before expanding her career to include dramatic roles. She has received several accolades, including 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe Award, and 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards. Around 2012, Catherine O'Hara and Macaulay Culkin accidentally ran into each other for the first time in many years. He went, "Mommy," and I was like, "Baby," the actress told Andy Cohen. And my husband, who usually is cool about these things, said, "Okay, get together, I'm getting a picture." I hadn't seen her in I didn't even know how long, and just right in the driveway I was like, "Mama," Culkin recounted to E, and she goes, "Son." And so every time we see each other, it's always "Mama, son." She's very lovely. Of course, Catherine O'Hara has maintained a close relationship with Macaulay Culkin over the years. She was even present to celebrate with the legend when he received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Number 14. The ornaments Marv steps on in the movie are actually candy. Among the several naughty tricks Kevin pulled on the thieves walking on ornaments, was one of them. If you actually think that was real, then your thoughts are actually ridiculous. Of course, those glass ornaments weren't real. According to Dr. St. Clair, walking on ornaments seems pretty insignificant compared to everything else we've seen so far. If I were Marv, I would be more concerned about my facial fractures. Fortunately, the glass ornaments in question were actually made of candy. But just to be on the safe side, Daniel Stern had to wear rubber feet for his barefoot scenes. Number 13. Chris Columbus directed the film because of a feud with Chevy Chase. John Hughes originally wanted Columbus to direct National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but things went south after a meeting with actor Chevy Chase. "I called John and said, 'There's no way I can do this movie. I know I need to work, but I can't do it with this guy,' he told Chicago Magazine. Shortly after, he was sent the script for Home Alone instead. Director Chris Columbus was set to helm the comic's 1989 hit, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, he shared with Chicago Magazine. Still, when he and Chase went out for an initial get-to-know-each-other dinner, to be completely honest, Chevy treated me like dirt. A second outing didn't fare much better, and soon Columbus found himself calling producer Hughes and bowing out of the project. About 2 weeks later, I got 2 scripts at my in-laws' house in River Forest, Columbus recalled. One was Home Alone, with a note from John asking if I wanted to direct. I thought, wow, this guy is really supporting me when no one else in Hollywood was going to. John was my savior. Number 12. The McCallister home from Home Alone has become a major tourist attraction. The McCallister home is located at 671 Lincoln Avenue in Winnetka, Illinois. The kitchen, main staircase, and ground floor landing seen in the film were all shot in this 5-bedroom residence, while the dining room and all other first-floor rooms except the kitchen were shot on a soundstage. In 2012, John and Cynthia Abenchian, who owned the home when it was used as one of the film's locations, sold the property for $1.585 million. The house was built in 1921 and it has 5 bedrooms, a fully converted attic, a detached double garage, and a greenhouse. Kevin's treehouse in the backyard was also specifically built for the film and then demolished after filming. The Home Alone house spans 9,126 square feet and sits on just over half an acre. Following a major renovation in 2018, the property now includes a basketball court, private movie theater, and top-of-the-line security cameras. The interiors are also very white, bright, and modern, a contrast to the sets in the movie. In May 2024, the 10-bedroom and 6-bathroom property hit the market for a whopping sum of $52.25 million. Surprisingly, it only lasted a week on the market before it was sold. Number 11. Kevin's scream accidentally became the film's best-known moment. That iconic scream that Kevin let out in a particular scene has proven to be the film's best moment. Several memes and stickers have been created from that scene. Chris Columbus told Entertainment Weekly the aftershave scene was conceived differently in the script, but on the first take, he slapped his face and kept his hands glued to his face as if he had just put super glue on his face, and his hands stayed completely still as he screamed like the Edvard Munch painting, he said. That's why he was such an interesting kid. No one else would have done that. Number 10. Angels with Filthy Souls is not a real movie. Your favorite scene in the movie was that particular time when Kevin played a movie, scaring away the thieves, right? That scene has continued to spark uncontrollable laughter from viewers over time. If you actually think the Jimmy Cagney-like gangster movie that Kevin channels as his inspiration throughout Home Alone is a real movie, then you have thought wrong. Don't bother searching for it on eBay. It's not real, nor is its sequel, Angels with Even Filthier Souls, which is featured in Home Alone 2. The snippets of the movie within the movie Mockingbird Angels with Filthy Souls was written entirely by Hughes, down to the "Keep the change, you filthy animal" line. Local actor Ralph Foodie was tapped to play the role of a 1940s screen star. To this day, people are still fooled by Ralph's performance, said Columbus. They think that's an old movie, and the original script included a fun callback to Angels, with Marv and Harry watching the flick in prison and realizing how completely they'd been duped. Number 9. Joe Pesci avoided Macaulay Culkin on set. As naughty as little Macaulay Culkin was while on set, he was probably really another random sweet 8-year-old boy. You might be wondering why Joe Pesci avoided little Macaulay on set. Here's why. To get the most authentic performance possible, Joe Pesci did his best to avoid Macaulay Culkin on the set, so that the young actor would indeed be afraid of him. No one would blame the young actor for being a bit petrified, as he still bears the physical scar from one accidental altercation. In the first Home Alone, they hung me up on a coat hook, and Pesci said, "I'm gonna bite all your fingers off, one at a time," Culkin recalled to Rule 42. And during one of the rehearsals, he bit me and it broke the skin. Number 8. Snow was not in the film's budget. Being a holiday classic, it would have certainly been weird if there had been no snow at all throughout the movie. The unusual aspect was that producers couldn't afford snow, but after the entire set was covered in snow on the second day of shooting, they had no choice but to call in the snow machines for the remainder of the film's production. To create the snowy look of the film, the crew relied on snow machines and semi-trucks filled with shaved ice. Another prop used to imitate snow was mashed potato flakes. They were spotted at the very end, when it started snowing outside Kevin's house. When they captured the moment Kate McCallister, Catherine O'Hara, finally arrived home, it was gorgeous real snow, recalled location manager Jacqueline Buxbaum. The biggest snowstorm in years, and it was Valentine's Day. Mother Nature really helped us out with that one. Number 7. The owners of the famed Winnetka house actually lived there during filming. Although the production team rented Cynthia and John Abenshian an apartment for what they said would be a 4 or 5 week shoot, the location manager explained that, under the contract, if they needed to knock down a wall when we weren't home, they could do it, Cynthia told Chicago. So she told us it was best if we remained on the premises. For 5.5 months, the family of 3 holed up in their 4-room master bedroom suite. "We put a hot plate up there to cook," said John. "We didn't have to cook that much because we had full access to the food truck that the crew used, which our daughter, who was 6 at the time, loved." Fortunately, most of the house-destroying interiors were shot at a local high school that was closed for the shoot. Number 6. Home Alone was a Guinness World Record holder for more than 25 years. In its opening weekend, Home Alone topped the box office, making $17,081,997 in 1,202 theaters. The movie maintained its #1 spot for a full 12 weeks and remained in the top 10 until June of the following year. It became the highest-grossing film of 1990 and earned a Guinness World Record as the highest-grossing live-action comedy domestically. It held on to that title for 25 years until the Chinese blockbuster Never Say Die knocked it out of the top spot in 2017. Home Alone grossed $476.7 million worldwide. It made Macaulay Culkin a child star and was the highest-grossing live-action comedy for 2 decades. Home Alone was nominated for 2 Academy Awards and 2 Golden Globe Awards. It has since been considered one of the best Christmas films. In 2023, Home Alone was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, and its sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, was released in 1992. Number 5. Kevin's older sister in Home Alone is actually a judo champion. 2 years after appearing in Home Alone, Hilary Wolf, who played Kevin's older sister Megan, landed the lead in Joan Micklin Silver's Big Girls Don't Cry, They Get Even. She also appeared in Home Alone 2, but the actress hasn't been seen on the big screen since. However, there's a good reason for her absence. In 1996 and 2000, the actress was a member of the Summer Olympic judo team for the U.S. Number 4. Catherine O'Hara. Read some of her lines to a tennis ball. Another strange fact is that Catherine O'Hara, who played Kevin's mom, practiced some of her lines by reading them out loud to a tennis ball. Isn't that hilarious? Catherine O'Hara didn't always deliver her dialogue to Macaulay Culkin due to restrictions on the working hours of child actors. "We would shoot a scene with one of the kids, then as late as 1 in the morning we would shoot my close-ups," she recalled. "They would have a tennis ball on a stand, the height of the kid's head, and the script supervisor would read the children's lines." Number 3. Off-camera, Pesci and Stern actually love children. Watching Home Alone for the 3rd or 4th time, one would be convinced that Pesci and Stern, who played the 2 thieves, actually dislike children in real life. However, the reverse is actually the case. "I'm a big softie when it comes to kids and I loved hanging out with Mac," Stern admitted in a 2015 Christmas Eve Reddit session. Stern, who starred as Marv Merchants of the Wet Bandits duo in Home Alone and Home Alone 2, exclusively told people that while he didn't work much with Macaulay Culkin on the first film, he got to know the pre-teen actor better while filming the sequel. When shooting the film's 1992 follow-up, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, his son Henry who is now a state senator in California, and daughters Sophie and Ella, visited me much more than on the first one, and we all had a great time taking Mac to Central Park, playing tag and catch. In any way, I think my character was much more of a softie than Joe's. The second time we got to be more friends, recalls the 67-year-old father of 3, and then my kids came to visit, and then we all went to the park together, Mac and my kids, and we played tag and ran around. Number 2, all of Home Alone was shot in the Chicago area. Although the main plot point is that the McCallister family was in Paris while Kevin was back at home in Illinois, the production was shot entirely within the Chicago area. The scenes supposedly set at Paris-Orly Airport were actually shot at O'Hare International Airport. Those luxurious business-class seats they took to Paris, those were built on the basketball court of a local high school, the same school where the scene in which Kevin was running through a flooded basement was filmed. The basement in question was actually the school's swimming pool. We had to move fast, Columbus shared. We only had 2 or 3 takes of the entire family running down the terminal. That was nail-biting. Although it sounds really difficult to believe, it is true. This is one of the many strange discoveries that make this holiday classic a total masterpiece. Number 1. Macaulay Culkin barely watches Home Alone. This fact would be difficult to believe, but it is actually true. It is hard for Macaulay Culkin to watch Home Alone from an outside perspective. When I'm watching it, I'm seeing like I'm remembering that day on set, the actor told Ellen DeGeneres in 2018. You know, like how I was hiding my Pepsi behind the couch. I can't watch it the same way other people can. I don't really watch them all that often, Culkin said of the films that made him a child star. Home Alone in particular is one he tends to avoid, he said, recalling that when the cast reunited for a 15-year anniversary DVD commentary, he realized it was the first time he had seen the movie in years. It's background radiation at Christmas time, lamented Macaulay Culkin. I've had people who want to sit down and watch it with me, which is both flattering and creepy. The fact that the Home Alone star hardly watches it doesn't mean he deprives his children of the opportunity to. Macaulay Culkin has allowed his kids to see how he's left his mark on holiday cinema. Oh, heck yeah, he recently told E! News of screening the flick for 3-year-old Dakota and his 2-year-old little brother. His oldest even thinks he is Kevin, Culkin added. I'm like, do you remember going down the stairs on the sled? He is like, yep, sure do. I'm like, do you remember when he had yellow hair? And he is like, yep. Dakota even believes he fought the burglars himself, prompting Macaulay Culkin to jokingly call him out. You're a lying liar who lies, he remembered quipping to his son. That was me. Still, he's happy to let them have the fantasy. It's very rare when you have something that encompasses an important day, and I'm a part of that, he reasoned. It's more fun to embrace it than to fight it. Home Alone had a sneak preview screening for about 1,000 theaters on November 10, 1990. The advanced screening proved successful, with 5% of the preview audience returning for its official release the following week. Fox Video first released Home Alone on VHS and Laserdisc in the United States on August 22, 1991. It was their first ever video to go direct to sell through rather than to the video rental market first, and it sold 11 million copies, generating Fox revenue of $150 million, making it, along with E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the highest-selling video of all time at that point. Home Alone is very popular at Christmas time in Poland, as it was one of the first Western movies to be released in the country since the end of communist rule. However, the Polish premiere of Home Alone took place not during the Christmas season but on May 22, 1992. 3 years later, on Christmas Day at 10:10 CET on TVP1, the Polish television premiere of the film took place. In December 2000, 8.9 million Poles were watching Home Alone on Christmas Eve. By 2017, about 4 million people, 11.6% of Poland's population, were watching it on Christmas Eve. And in 2018 again, on the same day, the film recorded the highest viewership, with 4.51 million viewers. What do you think about these 20 shocking facts? Do you find Macaulay Culkin's inability to enjoy the holiday classic like we all do weird? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting content. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.